Good afternoon, everyone. I am Paul Burke with Atlasify. I'm joined by Neeraj Garg, and we are here today to talk about a content hub for your association. Now, we're going to define what a content hub is, how you set this up, and then monitoring the progress of it. And so when we, as an association, we're publishers, right? We're publishers of information. And if we can get that information into the hands of our members, well, that's great engagement. And that when I say members, it's really customers. It's anybody that's coming to you for information. And then conversely, on the staff side, we want to be able to see information that will help us make better decisions and do our jobs better and be able to get to all this content. So at the end of the day, a lot of associations have content and it's spread all over the organization in many different areas of the business. And so what we want to do is we'd like to get this all in one spot so we can really see what we have, and then we can really share it out, right? Either to our customers or to our staff. So again, Neeraj is going to talk about how what does a content hub really mean? How do we set this thing up? And then how do we monitor it? How do we monitor the progress? So thank you so much, Neeraj. If you wouldn't mind giving a brief intro on you and your role with Atlasify, and then we'll get right into the Content Hub and how we can help associations.
Sure, Paul. Thanks for inviting me for this webinar. So I actually am the Chief Operating Officer at Atlasify, and we take care of around 300 developers who work for different global clients all across associations and nonprofits to deliver their solutions, right? Educate them in terms of what is good for their systems, what is not, and then suggest ideas on how we can actually improve the things better and innovate systems so that they actually are able to cope up with both the business processes and the technology, right? So we focus on three areas: people, product, and processes, right? And that is how we have been helping our clients globally to achieve their business goals with the technology solutions that we provide to them, right? And I think in terms of the content hub that you are talking about, obviously, we have so many channels of information now with the invent of digital transformation all across so many social medias. Then you have your websites. Then you do a lot of events for your associations, which provide you various leads, various data. Then you have your own training management modules that you do. So I was talking to one of our clients yesterday, and they were like worried about how will they manage their content, because they do a lot of road shows for their business users, right? From which they get a lot of leads or maybe prospects. Then they do small webinars, right? Training webinars like we are doing now to educate their clients. So that is another touch point for a content. Then they do a lot of training modules, maybe short trainings, longer trainings. So that is the third touch point. The fourth touch point was that they do full-blown events, right? Where they call business users to attend their events, right? So, and then everything is like all scattered, and they were worried about how to manage that content, because when you have like so many touch points for your content and that data is all discrete where it's stored in different places, now how do you actually connect those dots or your content hub that you have created? Okay, so content, every association, nonprofits may have different channels, right? They may be using an events app, they may be using a learning management module, they may have their own accounting software, they may be using Salesforce and association management software. So literally, and their own legacy systems as well, right? So they might be using something different as a legacy system, which like yesterday they were saying that they are using some system where they were actually storing their webinar data, events data, right? And they don't know actually how to merge that data and bring it into one umbrella. So when we talk about Content Hub, we talk about a hub which we need to actually create for different contents that are lying discrete. And I think that is the biggest problem with not just associations or non-profits, but with everyone, right, who is actually using a lot of systems, right? So that is the main issue, and that is what we are trying to solve for a lot of our clients in how to manage their content effectively, right? Because unless you manage your content effectively, it's very, very difficult to understand your member journey, right? And to engage with them, okay? Because it's the content which actually connects you with your users and members, okay? So in short, it's like everything that enters into your system through various channels is a content for you. Now, whether it's through your community portal, through your website, through your AMS, through your LMS, right? Everything that is into your system is a content. Now it's up to you how to manage that content, right? Because you have got a lot of content, right? Now it's up to you how to manage that content. So in short, that is what Content Hub is.
I love your example of events, because events, you've got a lot of moving pieces. You've got content that you're providing to your members or whoever's attending the content, or sorry, the event. You've got speakers. You also have sponsors of the event. So if you can better manage that information, such as I'm monitoring what content is being given at the event, and so I can then know when I need to go back out and create new events, new content, and then know who my speakers are and be able to go across and see what kind of a speaker search, if you will. And then knowing all of that information, I'm able to sell to my sponsors better, because then I have that content, and then also I can make better decisions about how I want to steer the events in the future. So a lot of information that you can leverage based on using a content hub. Absolutely. So when it comes to, how can associations, once they start using the content hub, what can they use dashboard wise to improve engagement rates? What does that look like, once we start using this tool?
Yeah. So see, you have got that content. So let's take an example. Okay. So like associations do a lot of webinars, which is actually a part of their marketing activities. Okay. Now, it can be an educational webinar where maybe like 30 attendees attended or registered, right? So 30 people registered for the webinar. So you have got that data that there are like 30 people. Now, out of them, like maybe 15 or 20 actually attended the webinar. And out of that 15, there would be various sessions times that they would be in that webinar, right? Someone might be attending the webinar till the last, right? Someone would be just attending for 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, right? So all that information, right, is, so if you're doing a Zoom webinar, all that information gets stored in Zoom, right? And you can easily get that information. Now, Zoom is an external system, okay, that you are using for your webinars. So it's actually a content for you. Now, if you actually want to enhance your marketing activity now and try to understand your users, their interests, or your prospects' interests, you need to analyze that data, okay? Because you will be doing like my client yesterday, they were doing like 3 webinars every week, right? Which is a lot of webinars, okay? Now, all that data, so 3 webinars means 12 webinars per month, okay, which comes down to almost 144 webinars in a year, okay. So if you talk about a year, right, 144 webinars and that data, okay, so that is lying within your system. Now, if you are not analyzing and using it for your marketing perspective, it's a waste of effort, right? All your webinars are a waste because you are not following them up. So you need to actually analyze it, And to analyze it, you need to actually connect your systems, right? Because if your systems are not connected, so you need to actually pull that data from your Zoom webinar into a central source of data where either it can be a Salesforce, right, or your AMS system, where you can actually start using it, right? So you must say that, so Paul attended my webinar, right, and he was there for 40 minutes of my webinar. That means Paul is interested in the topic I'm speaking about. Now, my next step should be, I should send Paul similar kind of webinar so that he can attend, okay? And then I will start sending him blog materials related to those topics, and he will start reading it. And that is how my engagement journey will start, okay? So when we talk about dashboards, dashboards are actually a collection of different reports that you can generate out of your system. Like one of the reports that we can generate out of our system is how many people attended our webinars, okay? And that could be one report, right? So we say that we did 100 webinars, and then I think 10,000, 12,000 people actually attended the webinars for the entire year. Then out of that webinars, right, we can have another report of how many people actually remained in the webinars for the entire duration of the webinars. Okay, so that can be another report. So we can have different statistics within these dashboards so that we try to drill down and understand like what people are interested in, okay, and how we can actually engage them further. And this is not just about the new prospects, we can do it for our existing members as well, right? So we can have reports where we say that these members have been with us for the last 15 years. So how many members are there who have been with us for the last 15 years? That means they are loyal members, right? And we should do something different about them, all right? And then we can actually start knowing about how they are engaged within the association, right? Are they doing a lot of volunteer activities? Are they actually attending a lot of our events? Are they attending a lot of our webinars? So that is the whole process. So dashboard is nothing but a combination of reports that you can pull out of your system to actually see what is happening and how your members or your prospects need engagement.
And that's great. So there's multi-layers of information that we're collecting that then we can report on. And this is especially useful as maybe membership as it's changing. As our audiences are changing, we're able to pivot and look at this in new ways so that we can shift our content based on these statistics, and we can also shift our content based on what interests there are, and we can further monitor that to make sure that we are hitting the mark. From a technical aspect, you know, how does this all come together? And if I jump too far forward with this and you'd like to comment more on the kind of use cases, I would be interested in that. But in terms of, you know, how this comes together from a technological point of view, we would love to kind of hear that, and where should we start?
Okay, so from a technology, so this is the business use case, right, where we have a content hub, right, and we have contents in different sources. Okay, so that is a problem, and the solution that we are trying to find through technology is how to we actually bring all these contents in different sources together, right? So that we can actually do some useful information about it, okay? Or we can gather some new prospects out of it, okay? So I don't know, we have a term called federated search, okay? So federated search is something where you actually do a search on different data sources. So you do a search on your marketing data source, you do a search on your sales data source or your technology data source, and gather information about the user from these different sources to get an insight into your member, right? So like we were talking about webinars, where we have one data source, which is Zoom, right? Then we have and those similar people might be attending your events as well, right? So we have another data source, which is your event database. Okay. Now you want to actually understand on so Paul attended my webinar, then he also attended the event. So I want to understand like how what are the engagement points for Paul, right? What are the engagement points he's engaged with us? So for that, I need information from my Zoom webinar database, and I need information from my events database. Okay, but since they are lying on two different data sources, I need to link them up. Okay, so from a technology perspective, what we need to do is maybe integrate those two systems so that data starts flowing between them, right? When I say data starts flowing between them, we need to make these two systems talk to each other. Okay, from a user's perspective, these systems should talk to each other. Okay, and that is where technology comes in, and they do it either through APIs calls, right? So you have APIs available for different systems, and you do a call. So please let me know what is the Paul's engagement with our association, and then it will give a report. Oh, Paul attended this webinar on this date, and Paul also attended these events on these dates, and Paul is also actually doing a lot of volunteer activities for us, right? So you understand, like Paul is interested in all these things, right? Similarly, for your member, you can have a member maybe making a lot of donations. So you want to actually pick members who are the top donors for you, okay, and who are also contributing towards volunteer activities, and who are also actually associated with your associations. So that ways, what you can actually do as an end result is identify your top leaders in your associations who are engaged, right? So we can mark them from a scale of 1 to 100, okay, or score them from 1 to 100. So anyone who is scoring above 80, right, is a strong follower of your association, right? He's engaged in a lot of activities. And we can do this scoring by maybe someone attends a webinar, we give him 5 points, okay? Someone attends an event, we give another 5 points. Someone is volunteering for some effort, we give them another 10 points. So that is how you keep scoring them. But that is only possible if you can search those kind of data from different sources through a federated search, right? So that is called a federated search, where you fetch data from multiple systems and that actually comes up, and then you are able to analyze and figure out what needs to be done. So that is what we do in terms of technology. We tie systems together through APIs or through various integrations using different tools. So there are different integration tools available as well, in which you don't have to use an API. They just integrate your systems together and come up with a single source of truth.
That's great. I always think about education as well. So if I'm using a learning management system, so I register through the AMS, but then I go over to the learning management system to do my coursework. And with the AMS, it moves my credentials over to the learning management system. I take I do my education, get some credits for it, and then it pushes that information back into the AMS. And I'm also, once we get the information back in the AMS, I can learn, what courses are being taken, what's popular, what I want to push marketing wise in the future, and then learn more about who is taking those classes and their interests and the engagement points. And then, as you say, one version of the truth. So as we're going and fetching data, we're all getting this data that we can trust, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to trust to make better decisions. So yeah, love the idea of this federated search. And I also think about when a member or a non-member or any customer goes to the website and they do a search, they don't know what they don't know. And so maybe it's pulling back some information. It could be like peer reviews, or it could be abstracts, or it could be all these things are of value, but I don't know that it's living somewhere off in the, off in some silo. And so
Yeah.
what's really nice is I actually can see this information and I'm spending more time and I'm engaged. And that means happy members because they're getting more value out of the association. And ultimately that means member renewals. So we like that. So engagement is almost, you would think of, it's kind of the currency of love for associations, right? If they're engaged, they're volunteering, they're spending time, and they're investing with you. So we
Yeah.
love this idea of pulling all the information back into one place.
Yeah. And
For the member.
talking about this voluntary stuff, okay. So see, volunteers need some kind of appreciation when they do a volunteer effort. Okay, they need to be appreciated because they are they are actually sparing time to do this volunteer activity. So it always makes sense to appreciate them by sending them an appreciation mail or a thank you mail once that effort has been done. Okay, and you can only do that if there is a system in place which actually lets you know that these are the volunteers who actually contributed. Okay, and there should be automatic email system that should send those kind of emails to those volunteers. And most of the times I have seen that this is being done as a manual activity by a lot of associations, and when you do this as a manual activity you miss some of the volunteers. Okay, so there may be 100 volunteers who might have contributed in a month, but you actually send thank you emails manually to just 50 or 60. So those 40 are left. Okay, so they might not contribute or they might be disheartened and they would say that I'm doing a lot of stuff as volunteering for this association, but I'm not getting that kind of recognition or appreciation. So let's forget about it. Okay, so ultimately, because your systems are not integrated and your content hub is actually missing and you're doing it manually, so you're losing 40% of your volunteers. So out of 100, you lose 40, right? Which is a big loss. So that is why it's very, very important to have a system where you can actually do a federated search, integrate these systems and get those kind of results. And that is how technology helps business. Okay, so technology cannot work independently. It can only work along with the business processes. A use case has to be defined that we need to understand volunteers. So the use case here is that we need to have a voluntary management system which actually does all this activity itself, right? And we don't have to do it manually. And then technology will come into picture and identify a system which actually integrates that your content into it and starts rolling those kind of emails.
So yeah, and definitely to recap, the volunteers are getting recognition. They feel like they are engaged. And on the back end, the staff, they're no longer having to do this manual work. The manual work is taken away from their involvement with their customers or their members. And they want to do, higher value activities instead of working on the database. And then again, because this is all automatic, it's again, one version of the truth, and then automation is really great in terms of just streamlining the business processes. Yeah. Definitely. So, and we talked about APIs and essentially it's the passing back and forth of information that we are, it's set up technologically. And once we get that set up, it is automatic, which is a wonderful thing. As associations implement these changes to expand their content reach, what are some of the pitfalls that we have to avoid or be cognizant of, would you say?
Oh, yeah. So, I will take the same example when I was talking to one of our clients yesterday. So they are actually planning to implement Salesforce, and then they want to actually do this event app as well because they are doing a lot of events. They want to actually integrate with LMS, okay, and record these trainings which they have, so that it's one. Plus, they want to do a volunteer management system as well. Okay, so they actually want to do a lot of things so that it's like it's one technology stack and it's under one umbrella. Okay. So obviously it's a very good business case, an ideal business case that everything should be under one umbrella. But the pitfall around it is that when you do a lot of things in one go, uh, things tend to fall around. Okay, because association guys are doing their own stuff. They have their own things to do. They have to arrange events. They are doing volunteer activities. So they don't get time to actually sit with the technology team and devote time to test all these systems. So what we generally suggest is that take baby steps instead of doing everything in one go. Okay. So your ultimate goal is to bring everything in one go and have a content hub system that is a single source of truth. But let's do it one by one. Okay. So let's get the core system first. Maybe get the Salesforce instance running, right? Because that is the core where which will serve as a single source of truth for you. Okay. And then try to integrate one system in one go. Okay. So that it's thoroughly tested. And I have got a Salesforce and I have got my event system, and then they are talking to each other. So, okay, my 1/3 of the problem is solved. Now I need to worry about LMS. Okay. But if you try to do it all in one go, then it would create issues because you will not have time to test the systems. And then the technology team will come and do their bit of stuff and leave, right? And then you will have a mess around you where obviously you have integrated everything, but those systems are not actually working as you expected. Okay. So that is the kind of pitfall you should avoid. Don't do things simultaneously, do it sequentially. Okay. Sometimes doing sequential work is helpful rather than parallel activities. That is what we suggest to all our clients, right? It's easy for the technology team as well because they can do things easily and get it tested from you. And it would be easy for the business users because they don't have to devote so much time. Okay. So that is the pitfall you should avoid while you are talking about Content Hub or trying to build APIs around systems or trying to use an integrated tool for anything else.
That's such a great point. It's, we want everything now. And we feel like we have to boil the ocean, right, with all of this. And it's so great, this concept of, it's all going to be in one place and the skies are going to open up and the sun's going to shine and oh my gosh, but it really is true. It's a lot of software to get your head around. It's also costly, right? That's just every integration is going to cost something. And I think that it's also, you have to think about, is the juice worth the squeeze? And what I mean by that is, I always say how much and how often. So how much do you have to, how much does the one system have to push back into the other system? And then how often does that happen? If it's quarterly, well, then we may wait on that system and we may say, you know what, we can make this a phase 2 or phase 3. Let's start on phase 1 of what absolutely has to, have bidirectional. And let's start there. And so a lot of good points made, absolutely, in how you approach the whole methodology of rolling out this just this web of applications into one source proof. Yeah, absolutely. And any other pitfalls that you can think of or things that we need to be just thoughtful about?
Yeah, I think one more pitfall that we have come across very frequently is when you are integrating two systems, when you're asking them to talk to each other, there is a data migration involved from one system to another. Okay, so when you're integrating your AMS with a Fontify event app or to Salesforce, you may have certain records within your existing system that are going to flow into the new system. So I was talking to them to our client yesterday, and they said that we have got around 60,000 records, okay, that need to be migrated. Okay, so obviously the technology team is going to place their efforts based on the number of records that have to be migrated, right? Because the more the records, the more time or the effort spent on it. Okay. So I think the first question that every technology team should ask the business user is, now out of those 60,000 records, how many actually do you want to migrate? Because maybe out of those 60,000, 30,000 maybe you have never used it in the last 10 years. So why do you migrate it? Because that data is actually junk data for you. Okay, so just archive it and keep it somewhere else where you may need it later. Why do you actually want to move your junk data into the new system and create more data garbage into the new system, right? It's like you just passing on your garbage from one system to another. Okay, so you don't keep the garbage at home, you just throw it out. Okay, that is something that you should do within your system self information that is useful. And and then they said, oh yeah, out of the 60,000 we just have maybe 25,000 records that need to be migrated. That makes working efforts would have been doubled. So one other pitfall that you should avoid is when we are talking about content hub, or you have got a vendor who is actually estimating, is telling him that these are the records, but only 30,000 records out of those 60,000 records have to be migrated. That will actually help you out because you will have to test less records. So overall effort will reduce, overall complexity will reduce for both these sides. So that is another pitfall that generally happens and people tend to fall into it.
It's sometimes it's hard giving up that data. It's just, you know, that's our security blanket, and we love our data. But as you say, we get to put it in we get to archive it. It's easily searchable. We know we have our data, and we know that we are putting data that's relevant into the system. And as you say, less data equals less costly. So at the end of the day, certainly we're trying to save on cost. And as long as we know we have our data, we're in good shape. Any other, things that we can be aware of as we're looking at the Content Hub and putting this together and implementing it and deploying it?
I think one of the other things that we should take care of when we are integrating systems or doing a federated search or talking to someone whom we need help to do that is try to search that if there are actually APIs available to integrate it. Sometimes there are, so you may have a legacy system which is very old, okay, and there must, because it's an old system, there is no API available which can actually, the thing that you should take care of is whether we want to actually integrate that data into the new system or we just keep it separate, okay? Because if you don't have an API to it, we will have to create APIs, which would be a tougher task because we will have to understand the legacy system first and then do it. So I generally suggest that don't keep the legacy systems for the last. Or what you can do is, instead of building APIs, right, get that data stored in some kind of CSV files, okay? Get the data dump, okay? So that you have that data, and then maybe in spreadsheets or in CSV files, and then the technology team can figure out how to actually migrate that data into the new system. Get the data out and migrating it through spreadsheets rather than APIs, okay? Because that's easier task, okay? And your development partner or your vendor should actually guide you on that. Sometimes they say that we will build APIs for that, don't worry about it, you will just do it. But that doesn't help about that system, and they will spend years and years just evaluating and building an API. So it's always good as a business users, don't try to touch those legacy systems. Just ask vendors that we will provide you spreadsheets for that, and you just migrate that data from our spreadsheets into the new system. That is what we do with our clients, okay? And it's an easy process because we don't want to waste their time, our time, and get into things where things become complex.
Agreed. And that's what we're talking about. We talked about boiling the ocean. And so some of these systems, if we get the data out in spreadsheets, with new systems like Salesforce, it's easily uploaded, right? And we help our clients with that process. We train them, and then it becomes secondhand. And so it is easier with these new systems, and with our guidance, we can make the manual process pretty easy at the end of the day. So I think that's helpful. Any other things you can think about? And otherwise, we'll go to, measuring the success of the app, of the program, and what we're after here, and in terms of measuring the success, and then how often should organizations look at kind of the success rates.
Whenever you are integrating two systems, or you are trying to do a federated search on systems, or trying to make the systems talk to each other, the measure of success is dependent on the user adoption. Okay, so ultimately it boils down to how many users have adopted to the new system, because that is the ultimate success goal. There is no other success goal, and that is the success goal for any enterprise or any association, because it's the business users who are going to use the system, and they are the owners of the system, and you have actually integrated these systems so that it's easy for them to use, and they can actually do a search and get the results out, right? So it's for the users to understand their members better, that you have made these systems talk to each other. So they should be the ones who should be able, has been done, because it will make their life easier. It will actually help them get better member engagement for their members, and they will start understanding their members. So user adoption, if it is 100%, obviously that is the measure of your success, no matter how technical complex your systems were. But from a business perspective, measure of success is 100% user adoption. And the biggest challenge for every associations or nonprofit is getting that user adoption in place. Okay, and why we don't get a user adoption in place? The main problem for that is we don't engage the users while we are integrating the systems. Okay, users need to be engaged when we are actually doing that stuff for them. It's their system. They need to be involved and told that this is something that we are building for you. Please let us know if we are moving in the right direction. Okay, that way they will feel engaged. They will feel they have that value that they have in the association, that they are feeling engaged in getting the things tested. Okay, because if you just leave them alone and give them a new system after 6 months, they will just they don't know what has happened, right, in those 6 months. Okay, you have given a new system, you have to train them. You will give maybe a 1 week training or a 4 weeks training. That's it. But you have lost that engagement. And you are implementing a new system or trying to do a content hub integration or a federated search. Involve different users from different departments who are the owners. Give them system to test. Ask them their feedback. Take their feedback in a constructive manner and try to implement it, because that is going to help the technology team and the business team as well, and they can work collaboratively, right? And as you say, Paul, let's celebrate the milestones together, right? So I think they should celebrate those milestones, because integrating or implementing a system is not just a race, it's a journey. Okay, it is a journey which has to be done together by walking together, not forward or backward, right? So it has to be done by walking together by the users and by the technology. And if we do that journey walking together, it makes it with that, it leaves that stress behind. So that is the only measure of success for any system, right? It's just a measure of success for the technology team, for the business team. There is no other success parameter apart from user adoption.
Agreed. Collaboration is key. And as part of this webinar series, we're all about celebrate successes along the way. That's been our theme. Empowering staff while they're implementing these things and having ownership among the staff certainly helps with train the trainer approaches. And it really does. It sort of like it feeds off of itself, and energy begets energy, right? I'm excited about this new system. I'm going to get the rest of my staff involved. And then after implementation, training, either refresher training, or if we've got new staff coming on board, we certainly want to continue that training process, keep that engagement going with our staff, empowering them to do their jobs better. And so collaboration, 100%, and that's a great measure of success in handling that change management and then having everybody on board. So it helps everyone involved.
Yeah.
Any other pieces of advice or best practices before we kind of wrap up our discussion today?
I think there are a couple of things that everyone should keep in mind, whether you are from a business team or a technology team. Always do things as baby steps. Don't just go for a full-blown stuff where you just do everything and then get in a phased out manner. So that everyone is involved in those phases and everyone walks together to celebrate those things sequentially. Already involved right from this. If you are an associate to build a content hub or doing a federated search, just not keep your development partner for the implementation, right? Think about after implementation support as well, okay? Because implementation is just 40% of your journey, okay? The rest of the journey comes when actual users start using the system. So even when implementing, you may have 10 users who are testing it, but you may have 200 users who start using it once you have implemented it. Start using it, they will have a number of, so you will have a support system, okay? So that, because if you don't keep that support system in place, you will have nobody to support them. And if they don't get support, they will feel lost and they will stop using the system. So whenever you are estimating the cost or making a project plan or getting the timelines from your development partner, ask them that we will need at least 3 to 6 months of support after the implementation. Generally, if they provide it, well and good, but if they don't, as a business user, you should ask that kind of question and keep that 6 months support with you, because user adoption will not happen for sure. Team after your implementation, users are not going to use it because you don't understand the system. Business users don't have time, and then they're not technical people, right? They cannot solve all the issues. Okay, so you need a technical support team. That is the key. I think if we can keep these collaboration, doing things in phases, and a support team in place, right, things would happen very smoothly.
I agree. It's a process during implementation. It's a process after go live with the new systems. We need user adoption. It does take time. We don't have to figure everything out at once. We celebrate our successes along the way, and it's okay if we make mistakes. Things are going to happen. We can pivot. We can pivot, and if we're doing baby steps, it's much easier to pivot, right? And so, but the key is just collaboration and celebration. So thank you, Neeraj. We really appreciate your time today and your insight into how we make a community hub the best it can be, and how, you know, people, products, and processes all come together to make that successful. So thanks so much, and we really appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to more of these webinars as we go throughout the year. So please check back often, as we're releasing content often at aplusify.com. So thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.